One. And we are recording with Mr. Tony Lyons, who's been on here once before to talk about Dr. Malone's book, Lies My Government Told Me, which is a fantastic book, terrifying, and in only a way Dr. Malone could. It covers every topic with near genius accuracy. I'll put the link to that book in the description, as always. But Mr. Lyons and I were just talking about, I don't know why I wasn't recording because we were having a great conversation, is kind of the all-seeing eye aspect of YouTube, their ability to transcribe. Yeah, I think like 8,000 hours of video are uploaded every minute there, and they're
Wow.
able to scan it all. And it's, to the best of my knowledge, they're not actually watching the video. It's because they do transcribe it for closed captions, and then I think they then scan the text, which is probably the easiest thing a computer can do. I mean, think about searching on a Word document 500 pages long, right? Control F, type in Boston and it will appear. I think that's what they do. And then they have their laundry list of verboten topics like ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, election fraud, whatever, border crossings, inflation. And they'll kick you off for that. But with that cheery beginning, Mr. Lyons, please introduce yourself to all the listeners.
Sure. I'm Tony Lyons. I'm the president and publisher of Skyhorse Publishing. We published more than 10,000 books in the last 17 years. And we published a lot of books that have to do with real COVID misinformation. Not what you're told is misinformation, but the real misinformation. So, these are the books that are that have been shut down, where the authors have been vilified. They've been kicked off bestseller lists. There have been no reviews in major newspapers. You have not been able to place ads for them on any big tech platforms. We were not allowed to place an ad in the New York Times. They do everything they can do to make sure that you don't read these books. And so my feeling, like we were saying before, is that this is essentially coming from the government, and the big tech platforms are sort of a pass through for these, government plans where they're trying to control what we read, what we do, what we think, what we put into our bodies. So it's really a coordinated attack on democracy and on freedom of speech.
And again, it's, I think, something that we all suspected, that it was the U.S. government, but with any extraordinary claims, you need extraordinary evidence. And up until I was getting banned, even after I got banned, despite, I'd be frothing at the mouth and my white Irish skin would turn blood red, I would still always finish with the caveat, because it is something I truly believe. These are private companies and they can do whatever they want. And whatever, it's kind of like do unto others what you like to have done to you, or, how you treat the lowest of my people is how you treat me. I've never liked the idea that just because I don't like a company, all of a sudden I can cheer on government involvement, because what you give a pass for the federal government to do to the people you disagree with, you are also giving a pass for a future administration to do to you. And I'm very aware of that. So even now, I'd still say YouTube's a private company, because as a private owner of my own podcast, if anyone tried to step in and say who I could and couldn't interview, I'd be up in arms. So I can't be a
Sure.
hypocrite. That being said, I've always suspected, and now we are actually seeing, and for future listeners, today is Monday, January 16th, 2023, with the Twitter files, actual government involvement, and not a rogue agent passing a note in a bar says ban this person, but a mechanized, formalized, actual coding portal for the government to have a fast track and demand this person, this person. I mean, we're seeing the redacted FBI emails, a list of these, and then banter back and forth. Well, they haven't actually broken any rules. Make one up. Say, this is just humor. Remove it. Doesn't, okay, we'll try to get him on this. We'll try to get him on that. And getting more and more brazen and just swatting down everyone they don't like. It is only a couple more steps of logical progression to then look back on your story and Dr. Malone's story and all of those bans that didn't make sense, all those inabilities to run ads that just, there's no logical, like, well, what is that? It has to be a glitch. It's the hairs start to stand up and you go, was that the New York Times that said that you can't run an ad? Was that Amazon that said you can't sell this book? Or was that something else? I'm not sure. And I don't want to put words in your mouth. Obviously, I speak for myself. But do you have any suspicions about that? Or are these companies actually just falling in line?
Well, I mean, um, we had one case where a U.S. senator wrote letters to Amazon asking them to take certain books down. It was Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s book. So we know that the government has gotten involved, and we know that there have been emails sent to all the big tech companies that have discussed with them the importance of protecting against medical misinformation. But so what viewers have to recognize is that all of these words, like misinformation or conspiracy theory, have been kind of weaponized to encompass anything that people who have the power to do it disagree with. So it's not about real science. So when you look at somebody like Dr. Fauci, what has Dr. Fauci done? So I believe that he orchestrated the single most powerful assault on real science in modern history,
Mm-hmm.
because there's no science without dialogue, debate, dissent, disagreement, and there's no real science where the consensus is just built on destroying everyone who you disagree with. And so that's what I think happened. That's what I think Dr. Fauci did. That people who care about truth, people who have a better answer, they don't need censorship tools. They don't need any of this incredible array of tools that the government, that big tech platforms, that newspapers, magazines, bookstores, that they've all used, if they just have a better argument. So, if Dr. Fauci, for example, thought that he could convince people that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. in his book, The Real Anthony Fauci, was wrong, or he was lying, or his information was incorrect, he could very easily have gotten on the front page of every newspaper in this country. He could have gotten on every TV show. He could have gotten on all the big podcasts, and he could have just gone through the book, claim by claim, and said, no, this is wrong, and I can prove to you why, and I have this expert and that expert. So this whole concept that if something's wrong, you don't want to give somebody a platform. You want to just keep their dangerous information from the public. That's the absolute, even if that was sincere, it would be the worst possible strategy, because history has shown time after time after time that the way to change people's minds is to convince them. And, propaganda, censorship work for a while, but they never work in the long run, because people are smarter than this current government thinks they are, or that the big tech platforms think they are, that you can't just take information off. You can't just deplatform people and have them disappear. And we've seen that these people are not disappearing. And I'm trying to be part of that process of making sure that they don't disappear by publishing physical, tangible books that are harder to destroy, because you can't destroy them with a bot that sort of searches out word patterns and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, there is, just as an aside, there is something beautiful about physical books, and that you really only need one. Just one has to survive. And they scan it
Right.
and upload it. You can nuke the internet, and then you can dig it up out of a chest buried in a yard 100 years later and upload.
Right.
There is a beauty in that. But Yeah, it's like you said, and I think that's an important thing to come through is it's very easy to just demonize and vilify people like Anthony Fauci, who, for the record, I agree with you. But to play devil's advocate, let's say there is a sincerity behind it. Okay, that's noble, I suppose. You truly believe this is going to get out there and cause X, Y, and Z. And if you're a doctor and you took the Hippocratic oath, you might be saying, I'm going to do anything in my power to save people. Again, I don't think that's what's going on, but let's keep ourselves mentally limber and say that is what's going on. It's still not efficacious. It still doesn't work because, one, at the very least, if someone's banning something, just that natural human urge in you is going to be like, it's like that little kid in you is just going to be like, don't tell me what to do. Don't tell me.
Right.
The reason why I ever discovered Eminem when I was in middle school is because my mom was like, don't you dare ever listen to Slim Shady. And I was like, I don't even know who that is, but now I'm gonna find him. And
Right. Right.
the next thing I know, I'm listening to Eminem and like saying words I shouldn't have known. But like, so one, on that human nature level, it doesn't work. But two, there you have to show people. You can never just say ban it all. You have to get on and show, and that's exactly what would happen. Is if the book was BS, it was all slander, it would hang itself. People would
Right.
get on and they would go through page by page and they would say this is wrong. And here is an expert in whatever, and in genetic material unraveling. Here's an expert in ribosomal transfer. Here's an expert in phospholipid bilayers. Here's an expert on virology and epidemiology. And you just go through it, and you wouldn't even have to go through all of it. You go through the first chapter and shoot it down. People would be like, oh, it's all horseshit. But
Right.
by just saying no, 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 that's dangerous. And then there's also kind of an even bigger level of nefariousness, and it's we're removing people's ability to think for themselves. Like, you have to have bullshit out there. You have to have claims that are wrong, not just like kind of wrong. You have to have people that are out there saying we live on a flat earth. You have to have people saying that Hillary Clinton's a lizard. Like, you have to have that because the public has to have that group knowledge to look at it and go, that's stupid. And then that gets more fine honed. And as you watch different news stations, you go, what is the truth? And you get closer and closer in. But by shirking that responsibility for independent thought and just saying, well, the government said it's wrong, you're becoming a domesticated animal that doesn't know how to hunt for itself. And the problem is unlike I don't know how a car works. I have a mechanic for that. I don't know how a jet works. I'm trusting the engineers at Boeing. That's all well and good. But when it comes to critical thought, once you shirk that responsibility and go, well, government said it's wrong, it's not only that you can find historical cases where that goes wrong. I don't think you can find a case where that doesn't go wrong. It is across every continent, every millennia, every race, every different language spoken, from Romans, to ancient Egyptians, to Nazi Germany, to present day Washington D.C. It starts with we got to ban this guy because he's evil, and in 2 short years, there's an FBI portal saying kill that guy, take that guy down, remove that guy. And how long until we find out that there's someone at a private corporation whispering in the ear of an FBI guy saying take this down? It is it is not an exception. It is the rule. And but if we don't learn from history, we're bound to repeat it. And I think that's what we're doing right now is we're getting spanked. We're burning our hand on the oven. We're the dog eating its own vomit and throwing up again. And it's like, I don't know. I don't know what you thought was going to happen. That's what I think we're doing. And I think the only way to fight that is to do what you're doing. Because you guys haven't just published Lies My Government Told Me. You showed me right beforehand. You guys are also, is that Ed Dowd's book?
Yes.
Died suddenly?
Yeah. So that is this book, Cause Unknown. And this is a fascinating book, and people should really read it if they question the current narrative And if they've noticed that they're hearing this line time after time after time in the news, that young, healthy people who didn't have sort of like comorbidities or prior sickness of any kind are just dying suddenly. So if you're curious and you keep hearing that, why are athletes dying on the field? Why are we hearing about all these musicians who are dying at 28, 31, 35? Did we really ever hear that before, or is this something new? So what this book argues is that after the mRNA vaccine was introduced in 2021, the all-cause mortality started going up. And it should have started going down, because why would you want to vaccinate billions of people if it's not going to save lives? So for whatever reason, the all-cause mortality was going up. And it looks like this is a very strong argument that they're dying not from COVID, but from the vaccine. So I think people really ought to read this book before they take a booster shot, before they give a shot to their children, to see if they think that what they believe can stand up to the information in this book. I mean, that's what books are for. That's what democracy is for. And so you have your preconception. You've been brainwashed. You've read all kinds of things that people told you to read. You listened to things that people told you to listen to. You got a narrative that was censored, that was, where everybody who disagreed was deplatformed. So now you can read some of these books, like Dr. Robert Malone's Lies My Government Told Me, or Cause Unknown by Ed Dowd, or Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s The Real Anthony Fauci. And you can think for yourself, do my arguments stand up to the arguments in these books? Because, like I said before, if the people like Dr. Fauci really believed that they were right, that they weren't just sort of forcing you to do something to help big pharmaceutical companies, maximize their return on investment, if they really just cared about your health, why wouldn't they explain to you why these people are wrong? Why wouldn't they let them make their best arguments and then make a better one if it's so easy, if it's so obvious? So, the only possibility maybe is that they think that the American people are too stupid, right? So, that's an option. I mean, maybe
Sure.
Dr. Fauci is this really well-meaning guy who isn't trying to just make more money for himself or help his partners make more money through these really complex financial entanglements. But, what he really cares about, he doesn't care anything about the money. He just wants everybody to get the best information. And he thinks everybody is just an idiot. Everybody except him is an idiot. So he's not going to bother himself to
Sure.
explain to them what they ought to do. He's just going to orchestrate a takeover of democracy in our best interests. So many of us would think, I'd rather die than just live in a fascist country where, even if I'm wrong, I'm put in a situation where I can't make any decisions for myself, where I can't get any information that's necessary to have independent thought.
And do you know where that tactic does work? Raising a child. It does work. When my dad's 40 and a business executive with a wealth of experience and 4 young children, and I say, I want to fly, not a pilot, but I want to jump out of my window and flap my wings. And he says, he doesn't go down and teach me about air resistance and the physics of flight. He just says no, because I am too stupid to understand. And that's
Right.
what a father should do. And in hindsight, you go, I was too dumb. Sorry about that. Or maybe it's something different. And I say, I want to be a pilot. And you just have a bad dad that says you'll never be a pilot. And you get older and you go, that dude was lying to me. I can be a pilot. Beautiful story. You go, whatever, empower yourself and all that good shit. It doesn't work with other human beings. Again, I don't need to understand how a plane works, but if I go try to understand it, no one's telling me this is dangerous information. No, they laugh and go, yeah, man, if you want to go become an aerospace engineer and you watch a YouTube video and you try to understand flight and Bernoulli's principle and the flowing of air pressure, and you go, oh, I can kind of start to see it. And then I'll get a pilot to come on here and try to explain it to me. And I'll be like, I get the general idea. I don't know the fine details. I don't want to. It's not my interest. Sure, right? You could teach me about getting books, getting them published. You've published what, over 10,000 books. You could start to teach me, and I go, oh, cool, cool. I don't need to know any further. It's not really my cup of tea. Got it, right? It doesn't work when someone goes, wait, could you tell me why this is banned? What? I just wanted to know why this is removed. And you go, oh. I'm glad you brought that up because I always think about this. Everyone that says, like when I would post, before I got banned from Twitter, when I would post an episode with Dr. Malone to Twitter, and people I know would respond, like, people from high school or something, and they'd be like, dude, you are killing people with this podcast. You are murdering people. And I would always respond, did I fool you? Just actual question. Did I fool you to go overdose on ivermectin? Across the board, the answer is no, because I know you're full of shit. Okay, so let's take that little caption. Who did I fool? I didn't fool you. I didn't pull a faster on you. I'm not dancing around you. I'm not Einstein. You saw my moves. You saw my slippery bullshit. Who did I fool? Well, you're fooling everyone else. Why? Because what you're now implying is they're all dumber than me, but I know what's best. Okay, so you now know what's best for everyone else. That is far more dangerous than any misinformation. Is someone going, guys, I got it. I'm leading the herd. I understand it. You are all cattle, but I understand it. And maybe you do. Maybe you really have the best of intentions, like a father telling me not to jump out of a window because I'm going to try to fly. I didn't actually do that, by the way, but that's all well and good. Well, how long until, surprise, an evil person exists and come along and go, oh, I'm going to beat these people over the head out of every penny they have? Best case scenario. Worst case scenario, I don't like this race of people. I think I need to cleanse culture, which is the terminology we see from the killing fields in the Khmer Rouge to in Darfur to the was it the Hutus and the Tutsis to the Shiites to Nazi Germany to the answer to the Jewish question. How long? And that's just in the last century and a half. That's just from like Model T cars till now. Every single time someone gets in charge, they go, "Oh, yeah, I'm gonna kill everyone." And it's just like it's almost astonishing how quickly it goes south. It's almost astonishing. We When Leo Szilard left Germany because he started to realize that scientists in Germany were discovering that there could be a uranium bomb of quote fantastic explosive power, and he saw the Nazis in Germany and said, I got to go to the US and I'm going to go talk to Albert Einstein and Ed Teller and we're going to go write a letter to FDR. That's great. As soon as we discovered that could happen, did we create infinite energy for everybody? No, we created an atomic bomb and dropped it on cities. That is the human tendency to take disproportionate asymmetric power and not cure the world, but bulldoze as many people as humanly possible. And it's unfortunate, and that's a deeper question that's outside of the realm of this podcast. But you have to understand that and go with the lowest common denominator of everyone should be able to think for themselves. First Amendment, everyone should be able to defend themselves. Second Amendment, you should all, because we know from history, 1776 was a while ago. In the grand scheme of history, it was at the very tail end. And they went, all right, we've looked at 10 millennia of information. So it turns out that deep down inside, we all just want to kill and rape each other. So we're going to set up this thing where you can own a gun and no one's allowed to tell you to shut up. And that's where we are now. I don't really know where I was going with that rant, and you're very patient for letting me go on that. But That's kind of my thoughts on
No, that was a lot of fun.
it.
And I keep coming back to the idea that if the truth is that Dr. Fauci and the CDC, NIAID, and all of these different government bodies are just trying to protect us and just trying to make us healthy, um, at the expense of our freedom, but to help our health. Um, to believe that, you have to believe that they're willing to give up everything that it is to be American, everything that this country was built on, so that we can have better health. Doesn't really seem likely that that would be true. It seems much more likely that they came up with a plan that was good for them, where they did not really care about public health, where it was never about public health. It was about the programs that are important to them. It was about the money that they could make for themselves, for their partners. And then what they had was the envy of every dictator in history, that they had a setup and they seem to have planned this long beforehand with sort of like trial runs.
Yeah.
But what they wound up with, potentially, if you believe some of the chapters in some of these books, is that they wound up with the whole government on their side, all the leading newspapers on their side, the FBI and the CDC as part of the government, the entire news media at pretty much all levels, with a bunch of outliers like this show, and there are lots of really good shows, but the balance of, I mean, the real weight and power of the media was on their side. And Dr. Fauci as the most powerful public health official in history, and some of the richest people in the world like Bill Gates and the president. So many powerful people just telling you what to do, and thinking that they're not going to explain it in any way. So the first point is that it worked to some extent. That my belief is that if people had read these books, if somebody reads Cause Unknown by Ed Dowd, I don't think they're going to rush out to get a booster shot. I would think that that would create enough doubt that they see. Well, so there's another book that we published, and it's called Transcend Fear by Dr. Joe Ladapo from Florida. He's the Surgeon General of Florida. So when he came out with a story saying that that 19 to 38-year-old men who received booster shots were much more likely to have a heart attack, to die of heart problems than unvaccinated people in that same cohort. So healthy people in the 19 to 38-year-old range. And he focused on men. So when he came out with that story, once again, very, very little analysis, nobody challenging him to have a debate, nobody really coming out with a counter argument, but they did come up with hit pieces. They just wrote negatively about the concept of his book and his ideas, and they called it misinformation, of course. So, but he's not the type of person where that would make sense. I mean, he did go to Harvard Medical School. He worked at some of the most prestigious institutions in the country, and he's the Surgeon General of a state. So anybody with any credentials who disagrees, Dr. Robert Malone, Dr. Peter McCullough, Ed Dowd. There's another book, Dr. Andrew Huff wrote a book about what really happened at Wuhan. So all of these people, we have to believe that every one of them is lying, maybe. So why would they lie? What's the possible reason for any of these people to lie, to go against the popular narrative if they don't really believe um, that it's true? Why would they do it? So the thing is, every one of them has been vilified, has been deplatformed, has lost jobs, lost opportunities of all kinds, been called a conspiracy theorist, been called a killer of children. So why would anybody do that if they didn't really believe that it was true? And so if this incredible group of people, so, look at Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s book, the real Anthony Fauci, wound up actually, even in the face of probably the strongest censorship campaign in the history of book publishing, and it still sold 1 million copies. So, and it's a book that it's really hard to call misinformation. It's got 2,194 citations. It's got blurbs from doctors and lawyers and scientists, even a Nobel Prize winning scientist. And like I said before, nobody came out to debate him. He begged people to debate him. He offered money for anybody who could prove him wrong. So he was desperate to get on the national stage and make his argument, as Dr. Malone is, McCullough is, Dr. Joe Latipo, and so many hundreds and hundreds of others. And so, all of these people were just shut down. None of them had the opportunity to make their best case. And these are people from Harvard, from Yale, from Princeton, from Stanford. I mean, these are serious doctors and scientists. And we, as a people, as a country, we were told that there was this incredible consensus, and that they were these outliers, there were these crazy people out there who were going to give you misinformation that can kill you, right? But the truth is that there were so many doctors and scientists who disagreed strongly, and they had incredible credentials, and they were shut down. And they were shut down, and as a result of that, people didn't have the tools to make informed decisions about their own families and their own children. So, that's what's happened in this last 2.5 years. And I think that we need to do everything now to keep on pushing, because the truth is starting to come out in all kinds of little ways. And every time the government and all the people who kind of took part in it explain away little pieces of it. So even at the very start, where they were saying, all of these people are wrong, they're all crazy. So what were these people saying? Well, at the start, they were all saying you could still get COVID even if you were vaccinated, and you could still transmit COVID even if you were vaccinated. And everybody said that was wrong. The New York Times said that was wrong. The president said that was wrong. Rachel Maddow had a big segment on her show saying that was wrong. Dr. Fauci said that was wrong. But in fact, all those people who got kicked off all the major big tech platforms because they said those two statements turned out to be right. And none of them got re-platformed after it became common knowledge that they were right. It's just that all the people who were lying to you initially, they changed their narrative. So then they said, well, you're less likely to die. So that's a tough one to prove, but it sounds good, right? But the problem is that they have Ed Dowd's book, which shows that after billions of people got vaccinated, the all-cause mortality went up. So, there's a lot of really good information here, and it's not about rehashing all the things that have gone on. It's about making sure that people understand what happened to them, and that we as a country are sure that we're never going to let this happen again.
if all these doctors were lying, Dr. Latipo, Dr. Huff, Dr. Malone, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., maybe they are. As we just talked about, humanity seems to be our base instinct is the one that predominates over throughout history is evil and extortion and abuse and taking advantage. So maybe they are. Maybe there's a consortium. Maybe they're just out to cause chaos. It's not out of the realm of possibility. As we said, it's the rule, not the exception. Well, now that you have two groups of people claiming to know what's best, the CDC, the government, Fauci, NIAID, or NAI, whatever it is, now you have them saying we're doing the best and the other guys are evil. Then you have Latipo, Huff, RFK Jr., Malone, McCullough, Fareed. They're saying, no, the other guys are evil. We're telling you the best. Well, now you're at that, now you're at a crossroads. And the only way through this is debate and or showing of evidence and proving. That's all there is. Because you have two people. It's two words, right? It's their word versus their word. This goes down to the basis of like the judicial system. You said you didn't kill her. You said you didn't kill her. But there was a body with you. Who did it? And that's how we, right? But there's only one group of people saying, yeah. Turn on the cameras. Let's do it live. Anywhere, anytime. I'll debate you.
Right.
And then you have another group of people saying, shut it all down. They're wrong. Destroy everything. You have the first group of people saying, I'll pay you. I'll pay you. I'm not making any money. As a matter of fact, I will take a net negative because I'm so sure what I'm doing is correct and moral. I'll pay you. Steve Kirsch just like throwing millions. He's like, $1 million to debate me, 2 million. How much do you want? Blank check. I invented the mouse. What do you want? I'll pay you. I'll prove. If I'm wrong, you're retired. You're set. Send all your kids to Harvard. You're done. Nothing. And then you have the other group of people who are not only not willing to debate, not only not willing to take money to debate, but also just coincidentally are backed by the corporations that are making literal record profits. This is where the critical thinking comes in. Maybe you don't have the receipt. Now we have Twitter files, but let's say that didn't happen. You'd go, all right, well, I see what you're saying, Tommy. One side is saying, debate me, I'll pay you to debate me, whatever. You have the other side saying, we're not going to debate you, we're going to censor you, and we're taking money from Pfizer, Moderna, AstraZeneca, Johnson & Johnson. Okay, it seems pretty, there's smoke, there's probably fire, and then there's no smoke over here. But because we're rational humans and we do live in a civilized society, you got to provide evidence. Okay, well, now we do have evidence, the Twitter files, but let's just pretend that didn't even happen. Let's go back 2 months prior to Twitter files. Well, now all you have, you don't have the receipts. There's no, fingerprints. Now all you have, you're in a tricky situation. You only have critical thinking. All right, I don't have the NSA's power. I'm not eavesdropping on texts. One group of people is willing to pay to debate, and the other group is saying, shut up, I'll censor you, use the power of the state, and I'm taking money from the big corporations. Well, if that critical thinking muscle has atrophied over the years, you're going to go, what's the government saying? Well, the government's on that side, so they're now going to tell you that they're right, right? The murderer is the judge, and he's going, it wasn't me. You have to have that critical thinking skill. That's all you have. When there is no evidence and you don't have receipts, and again, we do have evidence and receipts now, but when you don't have that, all you have is critical thinking. You're at a juncture. You're driving around and your GPS cuts out and you realize you're in a city you've never been in before. Well, now all you have is, well, I'm trying to get to the airport. I should maybe follow signs. I've never been on this highway before, but I know how to drive. I understand lane changing. I have gas in my car. I should probably at least follow signs. And if that doesn't work, I'll stop at a gas station and ask someone, where's the airport? Chances are this guy lives here and says that way. There's your critical thinking. If you don't have that, you're only dependent on, much like a GPS, this infrastructure which makes decisions for you. Turn left in 100 yards. Great. But what happens when a nefarious figure takes control of that system that gives you decrees, says you don't need to think anymore? This is right. What happens? Every single time in history, best case scenario, a fascist dictatorship and imprisonment. Best case. Most often, genocide. Maybe it's mechanized like Zyklon B. Maybe it's the killing fields. They just take you out back, and hey, hold your baby so we only have to use one bullet on you and the baby, which again, Einsatzgruppen. Every time. Every time. So then you can walk that out and go, well, if I'm a dictator, how do I make sure no one even learns from history? Well, I'd start banning books. And we've never got to that point. I think China's probably pretty close. 1984, they did well, right? Is to just remove history. Once you remove critical thinking, you then want to remove history so you can see what happens when there is no critical thinking. We're not there yet, but that is what happens. And it's not hopeless because, like, the idea of you only need one printed book, you can nuke everything, use an EMP, fry the internet, burn every book. As long as there's still one copy, and then you can just scan it and upload it and have 1,000,000 copies. It's coded into the fabric of our reality. Maybe it's entropy or enthalpy. I don't know, the thermodynamics. But it is coded into our reality that you can never completely seal off a system. Curtis LeMay was the head of the Air Force during World War II. And he'd always say that you only needed one bomber to get through, or excuse me, one bomber would always get through. Throw 10,000 B-17s, you could shoot down most of them. You would at least get one. You'd normally get like 1%, but you would at least get one. And then you drop the bombs and whatever. You hit the factory, which was all well and good. It completely changed with the invention of the atomic bomb because now you only needed one to get through. And that one could do the power of the rest. And he would say it is on our side for what the fabric of this reality is so that you only need to get one through. So there's something coded deep into this very reality that we're in that shows that like censorship is not the way. Free flowing information is not, it is the way. That's all it takes. So I don't think it's hopeless. I don't think it's hopeless. It seems that the very rules of nature are on our side, where you just got to get one through. And there's a beauty in that because ultimately our argument with this whole episode doesn't even really matter. It doesn't matter if anyone believes us. I've said this before. We're facilitating the flow of truth, but even if we did nothing, that because it is the truth, it will just be. Even if you and I and Dr. Malone and Dr. McCullough all die mysteriously today, sure, it would slow down, but the truth is the truth. Decades will go by and more people have blood clots. Like it will eventually come out. And so there is like a sort of Zen detachment from it. Like I can warn you that a tsunami's coming and you can kill me and say that was misinformation. That's fine. It's still coming.
Right.
You can see the bump on the horizon. It's not, and the next guy goes, I think he was right. Kill him too. Hey man, that wall is getting bigger and bigger, and it's dark, and it ain't slowing down. It's still coming, and so it doesn't really even matter. It just so then why waste all of this energy trying to warn people? Well, because you can still help, and that's where it is worth getting banned from YouTube. It is worth fighting Amazon, New York Times, and losing credibility. It is worth it because you can still help people.
Well, because maybe the future of mankind is hanging in the balance, so,
That too.
but, but if you think about,
That
but if you think about
little
this,
aside.
I want to ask a question to anyone who's watching this, and that is, what seems more likely to you? So, do you think it's more likely that Dr. Robert Malone, who is an internationally recognized virologist, immunologist, has done incredible clinical research, worked on all these multi-million-dollar projects for decades, that he would throw all of that away to tell you something that he didn't believe was true when it's only going to cost him money, going to cost him credibility, going to cost him his career. And then you take somebody like Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Do you think he would write and put out, spend 16 hours a day for 9 months of his life doing virtually nothing else, risking everything to get this book into the hands of the American people, to get this story out? Would he do that if he believed that it wasn't true? So what could his possible motivation be? And, he was right about the Hudson River and helped clean it up. He was right about mercury in, childhood vaccines and helped get the mercury taken out. He's been fighting big corporations that have been trying to hurt people for his whole career. So that gives you a little bit of credibility. But is it likely that Malone, that Robert F. Kennedy Jr., that Dr. Joe Ladapo would risk his whole career to tell you something that he didn't believe was true? So, he isn't trying to sort of, crawl to the top on the back of misinformation. He is a Harvard trained doctor, a very serious guy who's written for all kinds of different places, who's doing serious research. Is it more likely that the three of them, that Dr. Peter McCullough, who is a world-renowned cardiologist, that Ed Dowd, who was an incredibly successful, Wall Street analyst, working for BlackRock, which is the, most successful and powerful Wall Street firm, would he throw that away? So would any of these people, would Dr. Andrew Huff, with a really promising career, a relatively young guy moving up, great credentials, having worked for the government, having worked in private practice, would all of these people do it? Why would they risk everything? And the answer is it more likely that they actually believe exactly what they're saying? All of these incredibly well-credentialed people, these people who did months and months of research, who risked everything to tell their stories. And what I would say is that I believe that it's much more likely that these are the heroes of this period, and that these are the people who we want running our government. These are the people we want running government departments. These are the people who should be running the CDC, the FDA. Not all these people who have incredible financial entanglements, but people who have already proven that they're willing to risk their lives. They're willing to risk everything to try to help people. So that's the question that I have for you. Which of those things do you think is more likely, that all these people are, either just wrong, or that they're nefarious in some way, that, none of these people knew each other before COVID, by the way. So they would have had to sort of just independently, all these very high level people, who do not need more money, who are not looking for more power, that they all just at the same time decided to tell the American people lies to hurt them, or that they were really trying to help, that they are the real heroes. And, that I think is an important thing to think about. People always say, follow the money. And, that I think is a really good point. When you look at Dr. Fauci has said publicly that his favorite book is The Godfather. So, not any of a dozen philosophical books, any of a dozen medical books of the sort of the bedrocks of the medical profession that really impacted him. But he's saying it's The Godfather. And his favorite line in that book is, "It's not personal, it's just business."
Jesus Christ.
So, you know, do you trust somebody who would say something like that? Do you trust somebody who prioritizes business over public health? Or do you want to trust Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Dr. Malone, Dr. McCullough, Dr. Joe Latipo, Ed Dowd, Dr. Andrew Huff? These are people who did not prioritize making more money, getting more power, getting a better job. They risked everything. And that, I think, is such an important point that, viewers have to think when they're going to get their next booster shot. Do I trust these people? These people who have verifiably lied to me time after time after time? Or do I want to seek alternative voices? And that's what these books are. They're arguments to make different decisions.
So let's play devil's advocate. No, it's not likely that RFK Jr. and Dr. Malone and Dr. McCullough and Dr. Huff and Joe Latipo and Ed Dowd, it's not likely that they would all throw that away. But you and I are in agreement. Most people watching this are probably in agreement because they're on Rumble for a reason and not YouTube. But let's just say you're someone that does believe they're all doing it for a reason, whatever that reason may be. Whatever. They're all possessed. They all just decided they hate everyone. They think it's funny. Whatever. Let's just say it happens. Or you don't even have a reason. You just go, no, I do think they're all thrown away for no reason. They're lying. I don't care. It then only comes down to, and maybe Anthony Fauci just likes that. I love one of my favorite books is All Quiet on the Western Front. It's about endless atrocity. That's not very loving of me. So let's just take all of their arguments that they would use, right? And it's fair. Okay. Well, we are then at a crossroads. All those guys you mentioned that went to Harvard, well, a lot of these government officials went to Harvard. I'm just playing the advocate to you, the devil's advocate to you. Would Anthony Fauci really throw away his job? Would Rachel Maddow, discouraged or disgrace her name? Would all of these athletes and celebrities really throw away their name for a booster that didn't work? Or would Albert Bourla, is it Bourla or Allen, whoever the CEO of Pfizer, would he really throw that away? That would be their counter argument. Fair enough. So we then have two seemingly believable arguments. Would they really throw all this away? They're all Harvard educated. They're all at the apex of their institutions.
But they're not throwing all these things. Oh, yeah. I mean, so
but,
what's different?
Let
me just say quickly. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, no, yeah, go on.
Yeah. So let me just say that they're not just throwing these things. I mean, what they're doing is they're getting money for it. So the head of Pfizer is making a blooming fortune.
Yeah.
By doing this. So the 5 or 6 people who I described, they're not making more money. They're making less money, and they're losing. They're losing their careers. They're losing their credibility. They could have just towed the line, and that would have actually helped them. They could have made much more money. They could have been in better positions. Everything in their lives, other than their conscience and their desire to do something good for the world, would have been better off. So that was my point. But go ahead. Sorry.
No. And I agree with everything you're saying. That's if I'm known for one thing on this podcast, aside from yelling and being irreverent, it's always playing the devil's advocate. Because in my logic, by playing the devil's advocate, you're actually robbing the other person of their argument by fleshing it out. So let's just, again, imagine you're not talking to me. Imagine you're talking to someone who has 9 boosters and has never thought once in their life and just takes their talking points from Anderson Cooper. Whatever. Right. Nothing against Anderson Cooper. But so just imagine you're talking to them and they're well, no, they're not throwing anything away. They're getting books and they listen to Alex Jones and in their minds, they're doing the great thing. And Albert Bourla and Fauci, they're throwing away because if they're lying, they're going to be just whatever. My point is this: is when all those window dressings of the argument fall apart, throwing it away, blah 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 blah. It all then boils down. It comes down to a head. All right, show me the science. Stop one kid saying I didn't break it, the other kid saying I didn't break it. All right, one of you is lying. I'm going to turn on the security camera and see who broke the vase. That's what it comes down to. And so that's my point. Is it all boils down to let's stop saying names and throwing out arguments. Just debate it. Show me the clinical science. And then everyone will shut up. Show me live stream what happens when you put mRNA in a petri dish of liver cells. Just stop the argument. Use the presidential emergency broadcast system in the middle of the Super Bowl. Just do it. Because the only thing that will work. Clearly, everyone's dug in on their own sides. And that's my point.
Yeah.
Is they won't do that. And that's your answer.
And that is, that's how I come at this too. That if you're the best basketball player, you're not going to use every tool at your disposal to get the game canceled.
No, you're gonna say let's
To make
ball.
sure that you don't get to play.
Yeah.
If you're the best student and you know the right answer, you're not going to want to cancel the class or cancel the final. You're going to want to be in there. You're going to say, "Hey, coach, put me in."
Yeah.
Because
Anywhere, anytime. Let's go.
Right. I want to play. I want to be part of this dialogue because I can win.
Yeah.
So it's only when you believe that you can't win, except by somehow cheating or playing some kind of game, that then you need to play around with algorithms, that you need to, Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s book, The Real Anthony Fauci, had thousands of likes on the top 5-star reviews. Amazon took the likes down so that even though there's something like 92% 5-star reviews, the most liked reviews now are the negative ones because they took the likes off the positive ones, right? So all kinds of things like that, where they just made it less likely in search that you would find something. So these are not the tactics of somebody who says, let me play because I have better game. I'm going to win this basketball game. I'm going to win this argument. People who believe that they're really right, they're not afraid of dialogue.
Yeah. And that's what that was the point I was getting to is forget every argument, throw whatever. Imagine that Tony Lyons and myself are paid opposition. Whatever. Forget everything. Just anywhere, anytime. Like lace up. I'll fucking 1-on-1, 5-on-5. Like I'll destroy you. I'm Michael Jordan. I'm the best ever. I don't turn off the cameras, turn on the cameras. I don't give a shit. Let's go.
Right.
And that when it comes to that, that is where the truth is. That is the holy of holies. That is the alchemy. That is where reality becomes undeniable. And it's just, and again, it is what it is. It will come out no matter what.
Because, the truth when it comes to science, almost by definition, is the best argument at the time.
Yeah.
But what the American people have heard, what the whole world has heard, is not arguments. They've heard propaganda. They've heard answers, but no background for where those answers came from, because you cannot have real science unless you have both sides giving their best argument. So what you've seen, what the American people have been subjected to, is not science. It has nothing to do with science.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why I interview these people. It's just, all right, put the answer out there. It is what it is. All right, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, whatever. It will come out. It doesn't matter. It'll transcend you and I. It will go on beyond our lifetimes, beyond our kids' lifetimes, and on and on. It just will. One day you'll look back and you'll be like, who was looking up at the night sky with a telescope and who was getting burned at the stake? It's just what it is. It's gonna come out no matter what. Like resistance is futile. The tsunami's on the horizon. It's just what it is. Um, but with that, Mr. Lyons, we are running at exactly 1 hour. So I say we wrap this one up. All those books you showed, Dr. Huff, Joe Ladapo, RFK Jr., and Ed Dowd. I will get the links for all of those and put those in the description. And yeah, if you can put me in touch with any of them, I would happily interview all of them. I've had on Dr. Malone a million times, but I'll continue to have him on. But all those other guys, I'll follow up with you. I'll text you after this. And yeah, man, you're a great guest. You can shoot the shit with the best of them. And that's why I had you on here again. And I'd love to have you on here again and again and again until, of course, we're both jailed for hate speech, which is, I would imagine,
For
eventually.
domestic terrorism.
Yeah, whatever. Domestic terror, witchcraft. I mean, we'll get one of them. Salem witch trials are going to come back in style, and that will be the final episode of this podcast. Is me and Tony Lyons getting burned at a stake in a town square. So, with that,
Yeah.
closing thoughts, Mr. Lyons.
I would just leave people with the idea that, when the government tries to shut down books and tell you not to read them, that should be a reason for you to go out and read them and to think, can these books really stand up to my argument, to what I believe? And if you're afraid of that, then you don't really care about the truth. You're just stuck in a particular narrative. It doesn't matter what the narrative is, but you're stuck in it if it can't stand up to other people's arguments. So thanks so much for having me on.
Of course.
If anybody wants to find me, my company website is skyhorsepublishing.com, and my Instagram address is tonylyonsisuncertain.com. And the reason that I chose that is that I'm open to any ideas, and I love arguments, and much of the time we publish books on both sides of the same issue, just so that readers have the opportunity to hear what we believe is the best argument on both sides.
Absolutely. Text me a link to your Instagram, and I'll copy and paste that into the description.
That's great.
But yeah, thank you so much, man. Guys, go check out the books. Keep your mind open, and yeah, the vast majority of human history is people trying and succeeding to kill everyone else. So just keep that in mind. Don't just follow the money, follow the blood, because that's also where the truth lies. So, Mr. Lyons, thank you so much.